We are looking at a battle today that is shaping up to be the defining conflict of the next era of AI. And no, I'm not talking about some sci-fi, robots versus humans thing.
Not at all.
I'm talking about something much more fundamental to how this technology actually gets built. It's the battle between glory and, well, profits.
It sounds like a movie title, but honestly, it is the central tension right now in the industry.
So today we are unpacking a really fascinating strategic pivot by one of the biggest names out there, Murati, and her new company, Thinking Machines. We're basing this deep dive on an article called The Customization Gambit, Murati's Thinking Machines Strategy.
And it is quite a gambit.
The drama in this piece is almost as interesting as the tech, but I want to be clear about our mission here.
We need to understand what the source calls the integration bottleneck. Because, we have these incredibly smart frontier models, but businesses are just struggling to actually use them.
Right. So the big question is, why is it so hard to just plug this stuff in? And is Murati's new product something called Tinker, the silver bullet that fixes it? Or is it, I don't know, just another layer of abstraction we don't really need?
That's the trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
I want to start with the people, though, because you really can't talk about strategy without talking about the internal civil war that just happened at Thinking Machines. The source material opens with some pretty heavy conflict firings, resignations, the whole deal.
It describes a significant exodus of talent, yes.
Yeah.
A really big one.
According to the reporting, there was a major disagreement between Murati and her top technical leadership. We're talking about her CTO, Barrett Zoff, who was reportedly fired.
Bagger,
And then right after him, you had a whole team, Luke Metz, Sam Schoenholtz, Leah Guy, who all packed up and left for OpenAI. These are not low-level coders.
No, these are the heavy hitters, top-tier researchers. I mean, these are the kind of people you build entire companies around.
So this is where I get a little stuck. If you are starting a new AI company and your goal is to win, why would you let the people who actually know how to build the brains just walk out the door? It feels like cutting off your nose to spite your face.
It does, but only if you view the goal as building the smartest brain. The source says the fight came down to operating strategy. The engineers, you see, they wanted to chase what the article calls the glory goal.
The glory goal?
They wanted to build the next massive top-tier frontier model. They wanted to push the science, burn all the compute, and just see if they can create a godlike intelligence. That is the culture of a research lab.
But Murati said no.
She said no.
Yeah.
She insisted on a strategy focused on profits.
But isn't that short-sighted? I mean, we are in an AI arms race. If you stop trying to build the absolute smartest model, don't you lose by default?
Not if you think the race has changed. This is a classic visionary versus pragmatist struggle. Think about the early internet. You had people trying to invent, better networking protocols, the pure science. And then you had people trying to figure out how to sell books online.
Okay.
Murati is looking at the landscape and realizing that building the model is only half the battle. Everyone is chasing a smarter GPT-5. It's incredibly crowded, and the capital requirements are just insane.
So she's just stepping out of the smartest model race entirely.
She's pivoting. The source puts it really well. It says, the bottleneck in enterprise AI is largely about businesses not having a clue as to how they can integrate the models into their workflow. She's betting that the real money isn't in making the brain 10% smarter. It's in making the existing brains 100% more usable.
Okay, let's drill down into that integration bottleneck, because we hear that buzzword a lot, enterprise integration. But what does that actually look like on the ground? Why is it a bottleneck?
Okay, let's run a scenario. Imagine you are a deep dive insurance company. You handle millions of claims a year. You have this amazing genius level model like GPT-4 available to you.
Great. So I'll just tell it to process my claims. Or Z.
You can't. You can't do that. First of all, GPT-4 doesn't know your specific internal coding system for, say, water damage versus flood damage. It doesn't know your specific compliance rules for denying a claim in Florida versus how you do it in Texas.
So I have to teach it all that.
You have to fine-tune it. You need to feed it your last 50,000 claims so it learns your style, your rules.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. Doing that is incredibly hard.
How so?
You need to rent massive GPU clusters. You need to hire machine learning engineers who know how to manage training runs without the whole thing crashing.
Yeah.
You need to figure out how to host that new custom model securely.
Right. So I'm an insurance company, not a tech company. I don't have a team of ML engineers just sitting in the basement waiting for something to do.
And even if you did, they cost $500,000 a year each. That is the bottleneck.
Hmm.
The gap between I have logged into ChatGPT and this thing is running my claims department is a massive chasm of infrastructure and expertise.
And that chasm is the gap Murati is attacking with this new product, Tinker.
Tinker. It's a deceptive name, really. It sounds cute, almost playful, but the strategy behind it is extremely aggressive. The source describes it as a managed API for fine-tuning.
I have to be honest, when I read managed API, my eyes kind of glaze over a bit. It sounds like just another wrapper. Is this really a breakthrough, or is she just repackaging something that already exists?
It's a valid skepticism. I mean, wrapper is a dirty word in AI right now.
Yeah.
But look at the comparison the article makes. It says Murati is positioning thinking machines to be the AWS of model customization.
The Amazon Web Services, okay.
Yeah. Think about what AWS did. Before them, if you wanted a website, you bought a physical server, you plugged it into the wall, you worried about the air conditioning in the server room.
Right, you had to manage the hardware.
AWS said, forget that. We will handle the physical reality. You just write the code. Murati is essentially saying, I will handle the physical reality of training AI models. You just bring me your data.
So she wants to own the construction site no matter whose blueprints you're using.
She wants to be indispensable. It doesn't matter if you use Llama or Mistral or some localized version of GPT. You need a place to customize it. She wants to own that platform.
Let's talk about how it actually works, though. The source mentions that Tinker lets developers write simple Python code on, like, a local laptop.
Right.
But hold on, we just established that training these things takes massive compute power. How are you possibly doing that on a laptop? Is this some kind of toy version?
No, and this is the real AWS part of the magic. You write the script locally, the instructions, but when you hit enter, that little bit of code triggers these huge distributed training jobs on thinking machines' massive clusters.
Ah, okay.
Your laptop is just the remote detonator. The actual explosion happens in their data center.
So it handles all the dirty work.
It handles the GPU orchestration. It handles failure recovery. So if a server crashes 90% of the way through a training run, you don't lose all your money and time. It handles memory optimization.
The source mentions a specific technique here called LoRa, low-rank adaptation. I've seen this term floating around Reddit and developer forums. What is it, and why is it a big deal for a business like our deep dive insurance?
This is absolutely critical. Traditionally, if you wanted to fine-tune a model, you had to update every single parameter, billions of them. It's like taking a textbook and having to rewrite every single page just to add your own notes. It requires an insane amount of GPU memory VRAM, which is maybe the most expensive resource in the world right now.
You're rewriting the whole encyclopedia just to add an entry about my specific insurance claim.
Exactly. LoRa changes the math. So instead of rewriting the book, imagine you just slide a transparent sheet over each page and write your notes on that sheet. You aren't touching the original weights of the model at all. You're just training a tiny low-rank adapter layer that sits on top.
So the file size is much smaller, the update itself.
Drastically smaller. We're talking about reducing the memory requirement by huge factors. This means you don't need an H100, the absolute Ferrari of chips, to do this kind of work. You can run LoRa fine-tuning on much cheaper, more available hardware.
Which brings us right back to the money.
The economic impact is the whole point. The source explicitly says companies are spared the massive expense of hiring a team of high-priced ML engineers. If Tinker can automate the whole LoRa process, suddenly that mid-sized insurance company can actually afford a custom model.
It democratizes the customization. But, I'm looking at this and thinking, if I build my whole workflow on Tinker, if I use their API, their orchestration, their special version of LoRa management, aren't I kind of trapped?
You've spotted the catch. This is a classic lock-in strategy. If you hire your own engineers and build your own server rack, you own the muscle. If you use Tinker, you're just renting the muscle from Murati. So if Thinking Machines raises their prices next year, or if they decide to, deprecate a feature you rely on, you have nowhere to go. You're hooked on the utility.
It's the drug dealer model. The first hit of customization is easy and cheap.
Or maybe the utility provider model. You don't build your own power plant, so you pay the electric company whatever they ask.
So on paper, this sounds like a solid business plan. Pivot to selling the shovels during the gold rush. But the source material throws a wrench in the gears here. It says there's a slow walk happening in the market.
And this is the reality check. Murati has built this beautiful piece of infrastructure, Tinker, but the customers aren't exactly running through the door at full speed yet.
The source says AI developers are slow-walking enterprise integration. Why? I mean, if the bottleneck is real and the solution is here, why the delay?
Because of the agent problem.
Ugh. Agents. We hear about agents constantly. Agents are coming. Autonomous agents. The source is pretty blunt about it. Thinking machines can't to capacity fine-tune what doesn't yet exist.
Right. And we need to define what we mean by an agent in this context because it's often misunderstood. We're not just talking about a better chatbot. We're talking about software that can execute a multi-step workflow on its own, autonomously.
Give me an example. What fails?
Okay, take a corporate travel agent AI. You wanted to book a flight for a client. Sounds simple, but think about the steps. It has to check the calendar, find the flight, access the corporate credit card system, enter the details. And then it hits a two-factor authentication prompt sent to a manager's phone.
And the AI just freezes.
Or worse, it hallucinates that it entered the code,
Right.
or gets stuck in an infinite loop trying to refresh the page. The reliability of these agents right now is low. They work 60% of the time.
Not good enough.
In enterprise, if your payroll software only works 60% of the time, you go to jail.
So we have the brain, the model,
Yeah.
and we have the gym to train the brain. That's Tinker.
Yeah.
But we don't have the hands, the nervous system.
We don't have the reliable software architecture. The hands in the nervous system is a great way to put it, that lets the model actually do work in the real world. And until those agents are reliable, companies are hesitant to spend millions fine-tuning them. Why fine-tune a model to drive a car that doesn't have a steering wheel yet?
So Murati is all dressed up with nowhere to go. She built the perfect factory, but nobody has the blueprints for the product yet.
She's waiting. But the source suggests she isn't just sitting on her hands. There is an interim strategy. What do you do while you wait for the agents to mature?
The article says she should focus on developing fine-tuning that increases narrow domain accuracy.
Narrow domain accuracy. That is the bridge. That's the key right now.
Meaning what? We stop trying to make the AI good at everything.
You stop trying to make it a generalist, at least for now. You make it a hyper-specialist. If the agents can't do complex, multi-step tasks yet, you focus on single-step tasks that require extreme precision, like spotting anomalies in legal contracts, specifically for New York commercial real estate.
That 90% isn't good enough problem you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The source notes that accuracy is another major bottleneck. If you can use Tinker to take a model from 92% accurate to 99.9% accurate on one very specific, very boring task, businesses will pay for that today.
Okay.
They won't let it run the whole company, but they will absolutely let it run the document review.
So the strategy is solve the accuracy problem now, get the customers hooked on your platform, and then when the agents finally arrive, when the software catches up, you are already the incumbent.
She's sharpening the axe while waiting for the forest to grow. If she can solve that accuracy bottleneck, the source argues she could be way ahead of the curve when things finally start moving.
It's a huge gamble on timing.
Well, every startup is a gamble on timing. Being too early is the same thing as being wrong.
Which brings us right back to that showdown we started with. The source ends with a really stark comparison that just sums this whole deep dive up. Murati is going after the money. Altman is chasing glory.
It's the defining dichotomy of this moment in tech history, truly.
On one side, you have the pursuit of the frontier. Sam Altman and OpenAI and the team that left thinking machines to join him, they are trying to build AGI, superintelligence, the glory.
The science project that might change the world.
And on the other side, you have Mira, Murati, and thinking machines effectively saying, that's cool, but let's make the stuff we already have actually work for businesses. The money.
And did you notice the timeline the source gives us?
Yeah, it says we will find out who is on the surest path to winning later this year. That feels ominously soon.
The pace of this industry is just relentless. If Tinker gets adoption, if companies start really relying on it to make their models accurate, Murati could corner the market on enterprise AI infrastructure before the glory models even figure out how to be profitable.
But what if she's wrong? What if the glory team wins? I mean, what if GPT-5 or 6 is just so damn smart that it doesn't need fine-tuning? What if it can just understand the insurance claims perfectly right out of the box?
That is the existential risk for thinking machines. If the base models become perfect, the need for a customization factory just evaporates. If the brain is perfect, you don't need to send it to school.
But historically, in enterprise software.
Historically, enterprise always wants control. They want their data to stay private. They want the model to behave exactly how they want it to, not how Sam Altman wants it to. Customization usually wins in the enterprise market.
So to recap what we've learned today, we have this major cultural and strategic split at thinking machines. The glory chasers left to build big brains, while Murati is doubling down on Tinker, the AWS of model customization.
Right, a tool that abstracts away all the complexity of LoRa and distributed training, betting that ease of use beats raw power in the market.
And we have a market that is currently stalled because the agents aren't ready yet, forcing Murati to focus on boring, narrow accuracy in the meantime.
All leading to a showdown later this year between the philosophy of raw intelligence and the philosophy of practical integration.
It really is a fascinating moment. It forces you to ask where the value actually lives in this whole ecosystem.
It raises a really important question for everyone listening, I think.
And here is the thought we want to leave you with today. Based on everything we've discussed, this tension between the model builders and the tool builders, ask yourself this. In the long run, does the future of AI belong to the person who builds the smartest brain? Or does it belong to the person who builds the best handle for us to hold it?
Because right now, the brain is getting very heavy, and we don't have a good grip.
Something to chew on as you go about your day. Check your own workflows. Are you waiting for a smarter model or just a better way to use the one you already have? We'll be back next time with another deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
See you then.